Hello, everybody. Welcome on into the Central Committee Street with your host, Mike from PA. We are live once again, and wow, do we have news today. The Supreme Pontiff, Pope Francis, has died. The bell has been rung. His final act, snubbing JD Vance and advocating for Palestine. Mike, you have to see this shit. Guys, really? I have to see this.
Good morning on this Monday, April 21st. I'm Ali Vitale, and we come on the air with breaking news this morning. Pope Francis has passed away. The Vatican made the announcement just moments ago, saying the 88-year-old Bishop of Rome has returned to the house of the Father. Just yesterday, Francis made a surprise public appearance to bless thousands of people in St. Peter's Square. He then drove through the piazza on the so-called...
what happened? I mean, he doesn't look great, but he certainly doesn't look like he's about to die.
Pope Mobile. Francis also met with Vice President JD Vance over the weekend. The Pope had been critical, of course, of the Trump administration.
Is it crazy to say that Vance poisoned him?
Its mass deportation efforts, as Francis was an advocate for migrants. The Pope had been recovering, though, from pneumonia. He was in the hospital for 5 weeks and was discharged less than a month ago. MSNBC's Chris Jansing has a look back at his life and legacy.
Francis, the pastor, gathering excited children on the Pope Mobile, ever the warm and humble priest he showed the world the day he was elected in 2013.
Facciamo in silenzio.
Asking for prayers, dressed in a simple white cassock and an iron cross, not the traditional gold. No surprise from a man who is cardinal in Buenos Aires, lived in a small apartment, rode the subway, and cooked his own meals.
He could understand regular people. I'm an ordinary person, an ordinary guy.
Pope Francis represented, as much as it exists, the left wing in Catholic hierarchy. As much as left wing can ever exist in the Catholic hierarchy, he was considered a reformer. He was a Jesuit. Jesuits are scholars. And he believed in liberation theology, which is an idea basically of incorporating concepts of economic and social justice and leftism into Catholicism or just religious faith, Christian faith in general. He often aligned himself with left-wing political figures in Latin America, and he was, more open. He wanted reforms on things like how they treated trans people, queer people, women in general. Kind of striking at the heart of a lot of conservative shibboleths. Unfortunately, though, he's inherently, the Catholic Church is an inherently right-wing institution. It's inherently a relic of the Middle Ages. So even somebody who has relatively left-wing views for a fucking cardinal is pretty hemmed in with the the ability to actually effectuate long-term change.
An extraordinary job. And I think that the message was, I am one of you.
But then surprising many as Pope by bluntly taking on controversial causes, speaking out against the invasion of Ukraine, and criticizing those who wouldn't wear masks during the pandemic.
And are they not going to mention Gaza?
Calling couples who had pets instead of children selfish. And as the first Pope to address a joint session of Congress.
Really, the pet comment? It's just some boomer comment. Who gives a fuck? The pet comment?
Challenging the U.S. to open its arms to refugees and abolish the penalty. Even earlier, just months after his election, saying something revolutionary for a Catholic Church leader, that the church must welcome the LGBTQ community.
If a person is gay and seeks God and has goodwill, who am I to judge?
It's the Pope saying something that no other Pope has said, not only in terms of the implications of that statement, but the very willingness to speak with such kind of spontaneity and ease on a grave matter to reporters at the back of a plane.
By that December, Time magazine and The Advocate named Francis their Person of the Year. He made the cover of Rolling Stone, Fortune's list of the most powerful people in the world. And he was the first, as pontiff, to have an Instagram account, gaining 1 million followers.
Wow, I can't believe no one watches the mainstream media anymore.
In the first 12 hours. He was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio in Buenos Aires, Argentina, the eldest of 5 children of Italian immigrants. As a young man, holding jobs as a bouncer, a janitor, and studying chemistry before entering the seminary. When Pope Benedict retired, Bergoglio was seen as a cardinal whose time had passed, and at 76, too old. But after 5 ballots, white smoke. The first Jesuit ever elected Pope, the first from Latin America, and the first in nearly 600 years to follow a retirement. A story so dramatic, Hollywood couldn't resist.
You have lifted a great burden from my shoulders. You placed in every one of mine.
Francis took over a church with 1.3 billion members deeply divided over abortion, divorce, the ordination of women, and married priests.
He came into the church.
I mean, the Catholic Church still does not recognize divorce, but they do a lawyer's dodge. They do a lawyer's dodge. So this is what the Catholic Church does. So the Catholic Church will, if you are in a good standing, but you want a divorce, they will go in and they will do like, they'll find some reason that your marriage is not valid and they'll annul it. They'll be like, you know, this marriage, it seems like we found a technicality.
Church at a time in which there is tremendous crisis, both internally and externally, in terms of its reputation. And he's, in a sense, rebranded the Catholic Church. At a time when the church really needed a facelift, he provided it.
He expanded roles for women in parishes and at the Vatican, but didn't budge on making them priests. Considered allowing married priests in remote areas, but ultimately didn't, and reaffirmed many times church teaching against abortion. Conservative Catholics argue Francis.
I actually think that the making all your clergy incels is actually incredibly dangerous and very stupid. And why so many creeps become priests. I'm against clerical celibacy, chat. Surprise, surprise. I'm against clerical celibacy. Can you believe it?
Prioritized pastoral openness and
not incel, volcel. Bro, you're being paid. It's incel. When the choice is between being able to date openly or not get your money, you choose get your money and date secretly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's stupid. It's dumb as fuck. Clerical celibacy is creepy and dumb as fuck. It made sense in 1180 when you're trying to control inheritance of church property or whatever the fuck. But nowadays, it's garbage. Maybe you could say somebody could be has to be celibate for like a higher tier in the church if you really, really want. And that way you can like truly vet every single person. But it's just fucking weird. And by the way, they weren't even celibate back then. Like, they did celibacy, and then it was like, yeah, there's like 8 different, priest bastards wandering around the town. It was just dumb as fuck. Do you think they jerk it? Of course they jerk it. They just feel bad about it, which is part of the fun. Like, part of the conservative thing about like porn is like, oh, I'm such a naughty boy. I'm doing a really evil thing right now. Oh, isn't that hot? Like that's the whole reason why that's why they jerk it more. And then because like, well, I am jerking it, so I might as well go watch that really raunchy sex. Like if you look at where people have the most depraved internet porn searches, it's in the more conservative religious regions of the country. You know, like if you look at Pennsylvania, it's like big boob or whatever. But if you look at like Texas, it's like transgender threesome. And not that transgender threesomes are depraved. You just get my point. Francis called the Catholic parish of Gaza City every single night and literally used his email address to condemn Israel. Yeah, it is egregious they're leaving this out. Because they're fucking propagandists for Israel. Are you surprised?
The expense of church doctrine.
Since our main work in the church is preparing people and calling people to heaven,
that is such a damning statement. That's such a damning statement. You could tell your thing is dying out if the only people going to it are fucking elderly.
we need to be able to tell them, no, that's sinful conduct that will get you barred from going in the door.
Other critics question whether his moves to toughen church laws dealing with sexual abuse by priests went far enough. But with his appointment of 21 new and diverse cardinals in 2022, Francis further shaped a church leadership tilting more toward the developing world, and one that's more inclusive, willing to at least talk about tough issues.
Pope Francis understood that this was a world experiencing a lot of hurt, and that hurt was of such a magnitude that it needs a divine healing.
When failing health led to rumors of retirement, the Pope, who once ministered to the poor in the slums of Buenos Aires, said simply, "Leave a legacy of good, not just goods," as he had done himself, washing the feet of prison inmates, embracing the sick, and shining a light on the Catholic mission of love and mercy.
The crime of Father Amaro is literally a porno with hot babes and a young priest? Yeah, of course. Of course. Like, how many pornos, like, were like nuns or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, it's always been... yeah, like, conservative Christians have always been that way towards sex. The Pope's Easter message yesterday.
Buona Pasqua.
Happy Easter, he said. His full Easter message was read out by a senior cardinal, and there was a particular focus on the war on Gaza.
I think of the people of Gaza and its Christian community in particular, where the terrible conflict continues to cause death and destruction and to create a dramatic and deplorable humanitarian situation.
Buona Pasqua.
Happy Easter.
Who are the cardinals in the running to be the next pope? Remember, this is still a men-only club. Roman Catholicism doesn't allow women anywhere near its highest positions. But might this finally be the first time in well over 1,000 years that the job goes to an African or an Asian?
Cardinal Peter Turkson from Ghana has long been considered eligible, and he still is, despite unexpectedly resigning as head of the Vatican's Peace and Justice Office in 2021 amid an internal investigation into its management. Also in the running is Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines. The Catholic media sometimes calls him the Asian Francis because of the esteem he was shown by the Pope.
Of course, there are plenty of white men in the mix too, and let's face it, people have been speculating about a black or an Asian pope for a long time now. Another significant issue is what kind of pope we can expect. Pope Francis...
I'm sorry, just the way British people say black hits their ear wrong. I'm sure this guy's cool, but like, the way he said black, dude, like, like, what the fuck? Like, am I crazy?
No. Another significant issue is what kind of pope
Francis because of the esteem he was shown by the Pope.
Of course, there are plenty of white men in the mix too, and let's face it, people have been speculating about a black or an
crazy? He said it with like stank on it. Like, what the fuck?
Asian Pope for a long time.
That was verbally bolded. Like,
now,
bro, are you okay?
Another significant issue is what kind of Pope we can expect. Pope Francis was very successful at inducting new cardinals. Indeed, two-thirds of the men eligible to elect his successor were named by Francis.
Luc Besmond de Senneville is a Vatican correspondent for La Croix newspaper.
All these cardinals chosen by Pope Francis, they have two characteristics. The first one is that they come from what Pope Francis called the periphery of the world. So there is one from Mongolia, Myanmar, and Lesotho. So in the conclave, you will hear voices that have never been heard before in the Sixtine Chapel. The second particularity is that they all have a very strong pastoral experience. They are all men from the ground, from the field, and so it will change the way these men will choose the Pope.
So regardless of what the next Pope looks like, the Roman Catholic Church is still changing. It's becoming less European, it's becoming less metropolitan. In its future, the Global South and all its multitude of different perspectives will have increasing sway.
It's the end, though. It is the fucking end. Kiss all of it goodbye. Everybody then went stone-ass crazy. And I thought niggas were crazy, but white folks are real crazy. White people have done some crazy shit. White folks, you have got to find an age limit for the Pope. You have got to find it. This rickety-crickety, this old-ass Pope, he didn't even know he was the Pope. He thought it was Halloween. Then they took in that movie, The Passion, to get his approval. That man was old. He did not know what he was watching. They could have showed him Barbershop. He didn't know he was watching.
How's the economy? Are we fucked? Oh, yeah.
Then the Pope dropped dead, and white folks went crazy. They paraded the Pope around like he was Dracula. I thought he was going to get up. The Pope started stinking. I said, what is that I smell? It's the Pope. He's not getting up. Bury him. Then they tell me they got a Nazi Pope now. They picked a Nazi Pope, a Pope that was a Nazi. That's because he was white. They got scared. He was white. They got scared. They didn't care if he was a serial killer. Just, he's white. Hurry up. Because there was a nigger priest, and he might have been the nigger Pope. And they got scared. And the nigger Pope would have been the perfect Pope. Who else could wear that cape and that jewelry? But a nigger Pope. And when they shoot at the nigger Pope, he'll be shooting back. They shot at the nigger Pope this morning. He shot 8 other people. He could be overheard saying, they ain't getting this jewelry. Not all this praying I done done.
I will say this, that he's definitely right about the Catholic Church being weird. Has anybody else here been to the Vatican?
Palestinians in this stage, all they need is someone to stand by them, and also need someone to defend and support them. And also, it's very important for Palestinians to be felt and also heard and supported. The Pope was one of the leaders that have been always supporting Palestinians, and Palestinians have been really connected to him, talking to him every day and expressing how they feel the situation across the Gaza Strip, and especially the community where Christians are residing right now and seeking refuge is in a church in the Gaza city, and they have been always trying to stay surrounding each other and supporting each other, and there has been a lot of cause for them to evacuate. Let me also remind you that the Christian community did not evacuate to the southern parts of the Gaza Strip and chose to stay in the northern Gaza Strip, and also to protect the churches where they're currently seeking shelter. Palestinians now are expressing their sadness, and they said that they lost another leader that was defending the Palestinians and also has been always vocal about the Palestinians and defending the Palestinians.
Israeli police were pointing guns at Christians going into church yesterday. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the Christian community of Gaza has been singled out for extra oppression.
Yusuf.
Buonasera, Santo Padre.
Buonasera, come stai?
Sto bene, grazie a Dio. Mi scusa, è stato con la Santa Messa.
Ah, con la messa. E dimmi, cosa avete mangiato oggi?
El pollo, le ali. El resto del pollo. El resto del pollo, la salita che sta Santo Padre. Lo che quedò del pollo de ayer. Quasi tutti il compound qua ha mangiato pollo. Casi todos los refugiados acá.
This is like, if you don't know what's going is Pope Francis would call the Catholic Church in Gaza every day and speak with the priest there.
Ieri hanno mangiato pollo.
Anche il doctor Atallah. E también el doctor. كلت فراخ النهارده دكتور؟ كلت قاعد فراخ النهارده. الحمد لله.
Salam alaikum.
حبيبنا se nos amato papa. Appreciate your acá venía a saludarlo algunos bandidos. Este es Carlito. Vos. Ahí va vos el baba. Ahí va. Este es baba.
Yeah, he was not a Sabra enjoyer at all. That's true. He got the good shit. He got the handmade hummus, okay? He didn't get any of that fluffy, bitter ass fucking overly preserved Sabra garbage.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Ok, muchas gracias, Santo Padre. Muchas gracias, Santo Padre.
Grazie tante.
Io ti può ringraziare, pregare per lei, chiedere sempre prega per loro.
E prega a favore, non contro.
Sì, grazie, Santo Padre.
A domani.
Grazie. A domani, Santo Padre.
A domani. Shukran. Shukran.
The priest speaks Italian very well. I mean, are you surprised? Like, the thing about the Catholic Church is very focused on hierarchy. That's kind of its whole thing. And part of the way that you rise in the hierarchy is through scholarship. So that's kind of like that's the Catholic Church. And they tend to know like 5 fucking languages. Jordan Peterson has entered the chat. His parents were Italian immigrants in Argentina. Yeah. One of the few respectable Argentinians in history. Gonna miss. Yeah. I mean, listen, like, he's, again, as I said before, the Catholic Church is a fucking weird institution. If you're not Catholic, see, I was raised Catholic. So I am familiar with the mysteries of the Church of Rome. Okay. Let's just say that. And I know how fucking weird it is. Like, how many, like, we talked about this like 5 years ago, but how many of you know about the military of the Catholic Church?
One new set of Swiss guards were sworn in today at the Vatican during a mass prior to their installation. Pope Francis encouraged the new guards to grow as Christians as they serve. These 36 young men are joining the traditional force, which provides security to the Holy Father and the Vatican. The swearing in of the Swiss Guard takes place each year on May the 6th. EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief Andreas Tannhauser tells us more about the ceremony's history for the world's smallest and oldest standing army.
New Swiss Guards make their oath on the date that marks the anniversary of the sack of Rome. On this day, in 1527, 189 Swiss Guards defended Pope Clement VII against an army of German Landsknecht soldiers and Spanish mercenaries. 147 died in battle, including their commander Caspar Royst of Zurich. 42 guards were able to flee across the Passetto di Borgo, an elevated escape route, to Castel San Angelo. Pope Clement VII was forced to surrender shortly after, but his life and those of the 42 guards were spared from the carnage. The swearing-in ceremony concludes an ample schedule of celebrations that customarily begins the day before with Vespers and the deposition of a wreath of flowers to remember the guards killed.
They're all Swiss, by the way, and I think it's like you have to be Swiss, Catholic, unmarried, 5'9" or taller. Or 5'8" or taller. It's something like that.
1527. The next day, Mass is celebrated in St. Peter's Basilica in the morning. Then in the afternoon, the swearing in of the new guards takes place. This year, 36 new recruits were sworn in at a smaller than usual ceremony, which included parents and siblings of the guards and official representatives of Switzerland and the Church. For this special occasion, the guards wore the so-called Grand Gala, a comprehensive uniform of armor also seen for the Urbi et Orbi papal blessing at Christmas and Easter. As tradition dictates, the oath is made with a hand on the Pontifical Swiss Guard Corps flag and the presence of the representative of the Pope, Archbishop Edgar Peña Parra.
Who's also in armor.
Guards promise to protect and defend the reigning Pope and all of his legitimate successors in moments of need, even to the point of death. Each does so by reciting the following phrase in one of the languages of the Swiss Federation.
Which is Italian, French, or German.
To become a member of the Corps, there are some strict requirements. One must be a Swiss citizen, a practicing Catholic, and be between 19 and 30 years old. The recruit must be single, at least 5 feet, 8.5 inches tall, be in good health, and have an impeccable reputation.
Oh, 5'8".
At the same time, one must have passed the Army School for Recruits and be available for at least 26 months of service. Still today, the Pontifical Swiss Guards constitutes the oldest military corps in the world, having been founded by Pope Julius II in 1506. They are responsible for keeping watch over the entrances to the Vatican and the Apostolic Palace, carrying out police and representative duties during papal ceremonies and state receptions, and also protecting the College of Cardinals during a sede vacante period.
Which is now.
In Rome, Andreas Tannhauser, EWTN News
Which is now. We're going to be voting for, they're going to be electing a new pope. They're going to be doing it. I love how it's just ceremonies. No, that's not. They all have submachine guns underneath their uniform. I saw it's funny because like I saw a photo of their like armory. I think this is an example of it. And it's like they have weapons from like all sorts of different eras. We're gonna have our smoke watch, yeah, for sure. Catholic Church is weird, man. Here's Pope Francis at the apartheid wall, praying for a free Palestine. Oblivion gaming stream? What the fuck?
Let's say you want.
Okay, guys, can I say this? I'm gonna say an unpopular opinion. I don't like this channel.
Let's say you want to become.
CGP Grey is like Reddit personified. It really is Reddit personified. I really dislike the vexology shit where it's like every flag should be an orange triangle next to a blue triangle or else it's lame. And it's like, listen, I get the blue, you know, the seal flags are really lazy in the US, but they're trying to make everything this fucking same. Everything has to be a corporate logo. So like, I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan. He also does DMCA, don't watch. Really? Antichrist is trending. JD is cooked. Wait, what? I mean, the Pope died on Easter, which is like their... As soon as he was like taking a turn for the worse, they were probably like, let him die, let him die. It's base to die on Easter. Antichrist is trending. I don't even know where he's... President J.D. Vance was photographed inside the Sistine Chapel during Easter, leading to debate over the chapel's photography rules. Epic shot of Vice President J.D. Vance and his son inside the Sistine Chapel. What an incredible way to spend Easter weekend. Okay, chat. Can we talk about the right wing for a second? Okay, so in the right wing online, I've noticed a kind of trend. Because I watch right wing shit, so you don't have to. You're welcome. So I pay attention to the right wing. And so here's the trend. Basically, Catholics on the far right are anti-Israel, and non-Catholics on the far right are super Zionists. This is a trend that's been growing and growing, and I think the anti-Israeli far right Catholics are just anti-Semites. So we have like the far right who are like, yeah, like Israel's doing a genocide and that's bad because they're Jewish. And then the far right say, there's the group of the far right that says it's Israel's doing a genocide and that's based. That's the fight that's happening on the far right. And I actually think the anti-Semites are starting to win. And when I say they're Catholic, they're not really Catholic. Like, right? They're heretical Catholics in the sense where Catholicism is about supporting the church hierarchy and a belief. It's almost like it's very proto-liberal, where it's like the process is what makes things infallible. Like the church is the Holy Mother Church, and if the Holy Mother Church does X, that it's God ordained because it goes through the process of the Holy Church. It's immune from the infallibility. It's of the fallibility of man. It's infallible, right? Because it's like process worship. And then you have like conservative Catholics that are like, Pope Francis is the gay DEI Pope. And that's the exact opposite of Catholicism. Catholicism is saying the Pope is based. That's the whole point of it. The whole point of it is to say the church is based, the Pope is based. I just do what they say. That's the whole point. And I'll go to heaven if I follow these processes. I get baptized, I take communion, I get confirmed, I get married in the church. You know, I baptize my own children, I attend mass, you know, I take confession, and then when I die, I get last rites. And if I do all those things, if I follow all the church's processes, I go to heaven. That's literally the Catholic Church. You know, the Catholic, the church instructs me on moral living, and I perform good deeds in service of God. That's literally the Catholic belief system in a nutshell. You go through the processes, you enjoy the sacraments, you attend mass, you live life according to the way the church instructs, and you confess your sins, aka, and then you'll go to heaven. All of it is surrounding church processes. So if you attack the Pope as being the gay Pope or whatever, you're literally undermining the very essence of what it even means to be Catholic, which is what the far right Catholics do, which is the contradiction of their entire belief system. They don't really believe in anything. This is just trappings. It's a clown costume. These Catholics don't support the Novus Ordo, only the Catholic Church before that. They are literal heretics. Yeah, well, they're not Catholics then. They are heretics. American Catholicism seems very different from the rest of the world. Yes. Oh my God, that's such a good point. Thank you. Thank you for that point. In America, Catholics are just Protestants. Like, the Catholicism of the American Catholic Church has been warped by politics. And they have all sorts of heretical beliefs in line with right-wing Protestantism. Like, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. The Catholic Church believes in evolution. The Catholic Church is the place where they developed the Big Bang Theory. The Catholic Church believes in the Big Bang. Well, I think all popes have personally said they think the Big Bang is correct. Like, the Catholic Church believes in evolution. They believe in the Big Bang. They don't think the Earth is 6,000 years old. Like, they believe in evolution. Like, all that shit is. But you talk to like conservative American Catholics, and they're like, the Earth is 6,000 years old, and Jesus, like they speak like they're a fucking Baptist. And it's like, no, that's not what your church believes. They don't even know, because to them in America, this is very important. In America, Christianity is not actually a set of beliefs. I'll say that again. In America, Christianity is not actually a set of beliefs. It's an identity marker. It's like wearing a sports team's jersey. You put on the jersey of Christian as part of a bunch of self-describers in a conservative worldview. You don't actually believe anything. And that's why they all unite. That's why a Catholic can unite with a Mormon. Even though the Catholic Church says Mormonism is a cult, it is not Christianity. So the Catholic Church has like evaluations of all different denominations and how like close they are to being Christian or not. And they literally say Mormonism is not Christian. Mormonism is just a scam. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I'm going to Catholicism.com. Are Mormons Christian? I want to make sure I'm accurate with my descriptions. I don't want to be overheated. I've heard Mormons say they worship the same Jesus we do, and they are Christians. After all, their church is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Answer: just because someone says he's a Christian doesn't make him a Christian. Because a Christian must be validly baptized and believe in the God of Christianity. The Catholic Church holds Mormon baptisms invalid because even though through the baptismal formula they use is correct, the meaning of the words Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are so alien to Christian belief that they essentially belong to another religion. They don't even consider them valid. They're like invalid, invalid religion. When it comes to Jesus, Christians believe he is fully human and fully divine, and he has always been divine given that he is the second person of the Trinity, God the Son. Mormons, however, believe that Jesus Christ was once an intelligence such as us who existed from eternity. He was not always divine, and he was not always the Son of God. Instead, God chose him to become the firstborn among the intelligences by giving him the first spirit body. In 1909, the Mormon Church's leadership released a statement that read, "The Father of Jesus is our Father also. Jesus, however, is the firstborn among all the sons of God, the first begotten in spirit and the only begotten in the flesh. He is our elder brother, and we, like him, are in the image of God." Instead of being completely different in kind from human beings, this counterfeit Christ is different from us only in degree, hence the term eldest brother. He is just a more exalted spirit child of God the Father, which reduces him from being the eternal creator of the universe to being merely one highly praised part of it, which is antithetical to true Christian belief. AKA, Catholics are like, no, that shit ain't real, man. That shit ain't real. But what I'm trying to say here is, in America, though, Catholic conservatives are like, yeah, we love our Christian right brothers. And it's like, motherfucker, your own church does not think they're even valid. Like, they're not even Christians, according to the Catholic Church. But yet you align with them and you attack Pope Francis? Yeah, I don't think you're actually Christian, bro. Mormonism does give Catholicism a run for its money on the weird, secretive traditions. That's what they're doing, of course. That's what makes the Catholic Church interesting. That's what makes people like it, is the fact they wear weird costumes and they have a vault and they have an intelligence service. Oh, they also have a spy agency. What the fuck is the Catholic spy agency called? Catholic Church spy agency name. The Entity. Yeah, it's the Entity. Okay, this is just like a dumb book. Oh, okay. The Entity is too. Okay, so that's why they call it that, because you can't even search for this shit. This is the reason a lot of American Catholicism is the way it is. Praying the rosary for Pope Francis in St. Peter's Square tonight. Photo by Pablo Esparza. There's nothing in the intellect which was not first in the senses. We got priests aesthetic posting. Relevant to your corporate logo comment. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Catholic Confederates. There it is. Yes. This is such a good point. This is such a good point. A lot of Catholics in the Deep South kind of pledge their allegiance more to the slave power and racism than they did to the universalism of Catholicism. And like, that makes perfect sense. It's called the base and the superstructure, chat. The base was the economic system and the means of production and the ownership and the social situation. And then you had everything was heaped on top of that and the superstructure. And so Catholicism in the Deep South changed in order to accommodate the economic realities, because that's how those systems work. All right. We got more Pope Francis shit. Here's Pope Francis saying free Palestine. Oh, this better be really good.
I can't stand to see him like this.
He really needs a girlfriend.
gotta save that. I gotta save that for a sound drop. I gotta like save that as a sound drop just to post. Every time I see a right-wing, see a right-wing fucking post on Twitter, I just need to post this. This little clip.
He really needs a girlfriend.
Like every time I see somebody posting about marathon tits, a marathon's gonna be a bad game because of the tits. I need to post that clip. New soundbite. All right, let's keep let's keep talking about this.
When it came to the Palestinians, Pope Francis was arguably the most supportive pope in modern times. In the aftermath of October 2023, a little more than a month into the war in Gaza, he said what Israel was doing was terrorism, and the humanitarian crisis there could be considered a genocide.
This morning I received two delegations, one of Israelis who have relatives held hostage in the Gaza Strip, and another of Palestinians who have relatives imprisoned in Israel. They suffer so much, and I heard how both sides suffer. Wars do this, but we have gone beyond wars. This is not war. This is terrorism.
For an institution that for centuries used papal decrees to legitimize territorial expansion and European colonialism, and in modern times remained neutral on the Israel-Palestine conflict, Pope Francis's comments were a radical departure from the Church's legacy and its usual stance, but consistent with his reformist papacy and commitment to social justice.
Yesterday, children were bombed. This is cruelty. This is not war.
Pope Francis did not stop at words. He reached out directly to those suffering in Gaza with frequent video calls. Nearly every night since Israel's bombing campaign began, he called the Holy Family Church in Gaza, which sheltered hundreds of Christians and Muslims.
Salam alaikum.
The brief calls were a small but powerful gesture, the Vatican said, offering connection and hope amidst isolation.
Yesterday I called, as I do every day, the parish in Gaza. They told me, today we ate lentils with chicken. It's important because these days they weren't used to it and only made some vegetables. They were happy, but let us pray for Gaza, for peace.
In his final days, even in critical condition, he stayed in touch with the Gaza parish.
We rejoice to hear his voice. This is always comforting, knowing that.
This is the parish priest of the Gaza Church, Gabriele Romanelli. God damn, dude. Holy man. We need a minute of silence. So true.
Despite his delicate state of health, he continues to think and pray for everyone, for peace in Gaza, and thanking us at the same time for our constant prayers. Give us great joy even in the midst of so many trials.
And months before his passing, Pope Francis appointed the first new cardinal of Palestinian origin to the College of Cardinals. When the world's most powerful leaders failed to act, many offering unquestioning support to Israel or remaining silent in the face of massacre after massacre, people in Gaza will remember Pope Francis for seeing their suffering clearly and speaking of it plainly. A rare moral voice rising above political calculation. Zain Basravi, Al Jazeera.
Well, for more on this, we're joined now by Javier Abu-Eid, who is a political analyst and a former PLO advisor. He joins us from Ramallah. Thanks again for being with us here on Al Jazeera. First of all, can you just give us a sense of how...
Hey, I've been a Catholic since last year. It's so awesome to meet you. I touched a disease we're making for Israel, and it may kill you, by the way. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to say J.D. Vance killed the Pope. I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I think it's a legitimate theory. I think it's a legitimate theory. All we know is, like, they picked Pete Hegseth to be Secretary of Defense, and the guy, this is what this guy said.
As I told you, my 2019 resolution is to say things on air that I say off air. I don't think I've washed my hands for 10 years. Really, I don't really wash my hands ever.
Help me.
No, I inoculate myself. It's just not, germs are not a real thing. I can't see them, therefore they're not real.
So you're becoming immune?
That is our Secretary of Defense. Shock of shocks, guys. It's not going so well. Hey, guys, the Pete Hegseth, he doesn't wash his hands ever. It's not going well.
How his death will be viewed in the region, especially as such a strong ally of Palestinian people.
Thank you, Tom.
You just admitted for not... that was because my water broke. And then I actually went, I went to a friend's house to take a shower. That's how I know I'm not an anarchist. My water broke. No, my water supply broke. Okay. I'm not pregnant. You know, even though me and your dad, we just keep trying to get him pregnant, but you know, God, anything's possible with God. Okay.
As we've been saying this morning, it's a very sad day for Palestinians in general. And he was someone who, not just with Palestine, but also with the rest of the region, he tried his best to create bridges, to build bridges with the Arab and Muslim worlds. I don't remember any other pope who visited Arab countries as much as he did during his mandate. And there were several gestures that he made, not just from the religious perspective, where remember that he is the one who canonized the last two Palestinian saints, Maria Alfonsine Ghattas and Mariam al-Bawardi, but also he's the Pope who recognized the state of Palestine. He's someone who tried to make use of the moral power of the Holy See to advance a political agenda where, under his own words, there was no possibility to have peace without justice. He always called for a just peace and for the state of Palestine that he, as I just said, recognized.
As you've been talking, we've been watching pictures from his 2014 visit to Bethlehem and the stance he took next to the separation wall. I understand you were there at the time and saw that unfold. That must have been incredibly powerful. Can you just give us a sense of the impact, the vast impact that had at the time?
I think it was extremely powerful because even though the International Court of Justice had referred to the wall back in 2004 as illegal and that it had to be destroyed, I don't remember any world leader, particularly any Western leader, that took time to go to the wall itself and to have a picture there. I know that even though he was there to pray, there was a very clear political message that the Holy See was delivering. I myself, I was there, as you just said, and I exchanged a few words in Spanish with Pope Francis, and Pope Francis was very clear to me. For me, that was the top of the story when he told me, "My dear son, I know very well what's going on here." Those words were back in 2014. We should not forget that the Holy See is not a pro-Palestinian institution. There are different positions within the Holy See. And even though it's true that initially, if we are talking 100 years ago, 80 years,
JD Vance, do you want to meet my mother-in-law? Oh, God. Is boomer humor making a comeback? Like, this is boomer shit. Like, is Gen Z kind of boomer coded? Because millennials were wife guys, right? Millennials are wife guys. Is Gen Z like boomer coded? Are they like the take my wife, please kind of guys? And Generation Alpha are millennials kids. So I don't even want to know what the brain rot. They've been freebasing brain rot since the time they were like 1. So God knows what's going to come out of that. I don't know if they're going to be able to like turn on the computer. Like that's the level of brain rot we're talking about. See, the one thing about being a millennial is like I had to use computers when they required you to like kind of understand something about the operating system or the computer itself to run it. Like I first started using computers with MS-DOS, okay? So when I started using computers, it was a little bit different, all right? Now it's just like touchpads. I remember when we got the first GUI interface. All right, let's keep talking about the Pope.
Years ago, the Holy See opposed the Zionist project in Palestine, opposed the Balfour Declaration. At the end, it started to take a position which was more kind of neutral.
You know how I learned how to type, though, chat? One of the best games of all time. I legitimately just played this at home. Can you imagine a game like this being created? There's no way that Nintendo would ever give Mario IP away, right? Like, this is crazy. Like, how did this exist? Okay, can you just play the... Mario teaches typing, man. This was a classic. That was a classic. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the priest diet.
And some popes, for example, Pope John Paul II, when he appointed the first Palestinian...
Holy shit, core memory unlocked? I mean, that's why I know how to type. All right. This is Pope Francis was really close to a lot of the Latin American left-wingers, politicians. So we're going to go into a little bit of a dive on that.
Palestinian patriarch to Jerusalem during the beginning of the First Intifada, Patriarch Michel Sabah, that gave a very strong gesture, just like Pope Francis tried to do. And yeah, it's true that he also appointed the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Pier Battista Pizzaballa, who's not a Palestinian, he's an Italian, but who's someone who has been here for many years and who understands very well the realities on the ground. This was also, I think, a gesture for the whole region.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there, Javier, but thank you so much for talking us through all of that, Javier Abu-Eid, for us in Ramallah.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, here we have Claudia Scheinbaum, and she is going to talk about one thing that was based about Pope Francis. This, look, it's very good.
El mercado solo no resuelve todo.
The marketplace by itself cannot resolve any problem. For the outdated neoliberals,
Aunque otra vez nos quieran hacer creer este dogma,
however much we are asked to believe the dogma of neoliberal faith, it's a writing by Pope Francis. This is about an impoverished and repetitive school of thought that always offers the same recipes, whatever the challenge. Neoliberalism simply reproduced itself by resorting to the magic theories of spillover or trickle without using the name as the only solution to societal problems. By the way, this is the abundance agenda. This is the YIMBY. YIMBYism is just trickle down theory, but for housing. But it's going to work this time, guys. It's going to work. As long as all we do is build luxury condos for the very rich for profit, somehow that'll fucking trickle down to housing the poor. Now, I have a better idea. Here's my idea. How about we just build housing directly for the poor and we guarantee it as a human right? We build housing for the middle class and we guarantee it as a human right. And we build housing we build public housing not as like a catch-all for the very, very poor and the people that are able to navigate fucking 80 different, application forms, but we make it a right that everybody gets. And the housing is desirable and well designed and well maintained. And we charge you rent that's based on how much it costs to maintain the building and give improvements. We charge you a fair rate for the purpose of maintaining the property, not whatever the market bears so that people can profiteer off of land monopoly. How about we do that instead? I don't know. It's wild. I've only ever lived in Vienna, where it works super well and it's the most livable city in the entire world. And 60% of people live in social, nonprofit, limited profit, or public housing. And it's the housing of the middle class. And when you turn fucking 18, imagine this, chat. When you turn 18 as an Austrian in Vienna, you apply for your own apartment and you get it. As a teenager, you get to move out of your parents' house and you get to live on your own, in your own fucking apartment. And what's the rent? Well, it depends on how much money you're making. If you're like a student, it's like nothing. They'll literally give you subsidies so you can live there. If not, as you make more money, the rent will go up, but it never gets that high. Why don't we do that? Well, see, the reason why Democrats and YIMBY style, abundance agenda people will talk about this is because they worship the market. For them, the most important thing is the market, making a market, building the market, market. If you do direct provision of services, if you do government provision of services, that you're ruining the ability to profit. That's not fair. Kristi Noem's bag with $3,000 in cash was stolen from a DC restaurant. Why are you carrying $3K in cash? Like, I get having, maybe even up to like $500 in cash. I get that. That's a lot. But I could be like, okay, maybe the person just is very paranoid and they want to make sure that if they had to, they could like pay for a hotel room or something in an emergency, right? Like, or, they could pay for like, a car tow or something. Like, I get it. 3,000? What are you doing? Buying handfuls of cocaine? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, why do you need that much cash? Like, are you buying prostitutes? Like, what is going on? Like, what the fuck?
Problemas sociales.
This little appreciation of the fact that this alleged spillover does not resolve the inequality that gives rise to new forms of violence, threatening the fabric of society. It is imperative to have a proactive economic policy directed at promoting an economy that favors productive diversity and business creativity and makes it possible for jobs to be created and not cut. Financial speculation fundamentally aimed at quick profit continues to wreak havoc. Which, by the way, is all of... I need to write something about the American economy, what it really is. I really do, because I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Maybe it's because I'm actually a normal human being, but 95% of what I read about the economy is totally fake. And I want to give you an example. There are millions of people who get paid through Medicaid to take care of sick or elderly friends and family. Home health care aids, like where you get hired and you get hired by a government contractor to provide home health care to your relative. Okay, now listen, I'm not saying that those people shouldn't be given money. I'm not saying that isn't valid. All right, I think it's incredibly important, but it's welfare. Okay, it's not a job, it's welfare. So we have millions upon millions upon millions of people that are getting paid for work in the home. That is important and valuable. I'm not saying it's not, but it's just not a job in the traditional productive sense of the economy. Okay, and the money for it comes from the government borrowing. It is, and the reason why we're able to afford it is because we're the global reserve currency. And so we don't have to produce goods and services that equal what we're bringing into our country. Like every other country in the world, they have to produce goods and services greater than the imports that they bring in, or else they will have a fiscal imbalance. All right. And it causes tremendous pressure on their economy. Okay. Doesn't mean they have to have a surplus with everybody. Doesn't mean they have to have a surplus every year. But if year over year over year, you're consistently running a trade deficit like we are, it's going to slowly undermine your economy, like Greece, for example. Within the Eurozone, Germans traditionally had an economic surplus, and the southern European countries had an economic deficit that led them to a point where they had a financial crisis. The European financial crisis was based on the fact that they had a fundamental, intractable trade deficit with other parts of the Eurozone, and they weren't getting fiscal transfers to make up for it. So their economy started to fail. Okay. And that is what happened. So the United States of America is absolutely chock full of make work bullshit jobs, email jobs, the Medicare home health stuff, which is literally just a government program handout, disability, like so many people get declared disabled because it's the only way to get welfare in this fucking country. You have somebody who, if they had support, if they had a good community, if they got access to training and education, probably would be able to get a job, at least a part-time job. But our system is designed for people to either get themselves declared disabled or some other way so that they can be considered one of the good poor who deserves help, right? So you have people that would be marginally working who decide or are angled to not work because of our disability system. We have a system that is absolutely unproductive. Most people have, like, we're talking about like 50% of people are just absolutely on the edge of economic ruination any particular week. And this reality is just not processed by like the top. It's actually fucking crazy. This is a horrible take. This is a horribly accurate take. I'm not saying these people are bad. I'm saying that our system is full of smoke and mirrors, and it's not based on actually providing people a robust social safety net where they don't have to jump through hoops. And so we create this hoops because we don't want to give anything to anybody who doesn't deserve it, right? And so what ends up happening is we straitjacket ourselves into all of these positions that are fundamentally unproductive, and we're undermining the economy at a very base level. Because we can't just give people money because they're human beings and they should have everything provided to them. We have to have this interlocking regime of means testing that has created a ridiculous system of unproductivity. And that's what gets incentivized. Congratulations, you fucked it all up. It was the first global South Pope. I think it might have something to do with it. Yeah, I mean, he's great. I mean, he's way better. My friend's dad passed away before getting his disability, went through legal trouble for over 2 years. They're still working for waiting for the check, and it's been halved for no reason. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Your father should just have gotten health and help immediately because he needed it. Why the fuck why have we created this system of utter fragility and utter Kafka-esque bureaucracy? And it has really sapped this nation. It's destroyed it because we so don't want to help people We've created a system where people become non-persons. Congratulations, you fucking did it. The ultimate neoliberal policy. Did you see the California mayor who wants to purge the homeless by giving them free fentanyl so they all die? They won't die because more homeless are being produced all the time, because housing is unaffordable, because you can't get a good job. So people who are hardworking, intelligent, diligent people become homeless constantly. They're producing more homeless people. And when you get out on the streets, after you're out on the streets for 6 to 9 months, you start to have mental health crises, because it's like living under stress for 6 straight months. What do you think that does to your mental health? What do you think that does to your physical health? Never having a moment's of privacy, never having a moment's peace, never having a moment's quiet, not being able to sleep. What the fuck do you think that does to you? This is, I mean, like, people are absolutely stupid. Like, this country is rotten to the core. This country is rotten to the fucking core. You know what it is? I think it fundamentally is that Americans just hate other Americans. Like, we fundamentally just hate each other. It's like fucked up. Like, why should I have to pay for your kid to get an education? Are you listening to yourself? Like, people hear that. Like, I have heard this before. Why should I have to pay for you? That was you getting pregnant. You shouldn't have had that sex. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You should want to educate his kid because he's going to be sitting next to you on the bus, or he's going to be sitting next to you at the beach, and you want him to have a good life, because if he's desperate and poor and uneducated, he's much more likely to become violent and reject the system that rejected him. By creating a society where the children are not taken care of, you're creating the society that will kill your ass. Americans don't hate each other, but they especially hate children. Oh yeah, for sure. This is the most anti-children society in the fucking planet, without a doubt. America, like, this is the thing where I diverge the most from a lot of the online left. Unpopular opinion incoming. I think it's fucking weird to, like, be obsessed with hating kids. I think that's fucking a red flag. I think it's weird. Like, I understand not wanting to have children. That's totally valid. If you don't want to have children, I don't want you to have children. Like, you know what I mean? But, like, just being so fucking weird about kids. Like, the Reddit, like, child-free mentality, it has always kind of been off-putting to me. Where it's like, listen, I get it. I don't like to turn on a show and see a child actor. Can I be honest? I want to build a bridge with the child-free folks. When I turn on a television show and there's a child actor, I immediately let out a sigh, because kids cannot act. For every 99 times you have a kid actor in a show, you get one good performance. And I fucking hate child actors. And also, it's creepy. It's fucking creepy to, like, force a kid to go work to, you know, poorly act. Although most of the time, child actors are, like, literally related to the producers or the people putting up the money. But that's beside the point. Let's leave that aside. So there's my bridge with the child-free people. I want child-free entertainment, okay? Keep the children away from the entertainment, all right? There, I'm happy with it, okay? Or have them, you know, limit the amount of screen time that kids have that can't act. Can we have like, you know, a moratorium on child actors until we can figure out what the hell is going on, okay? But you have to pay for real children's health care and education, okay? What about voice acting for animated shows? Use adults. Use adults. They can make little kid voices, but then they can actually act. Wow, Mike really said it.
Fuck them kids. Fuck the kids? Yeah.
That's actually not what I was saying. I was saying fuck the kid actors. We don't want them here. Anyway, our society is fundamentally disgusting and broken and it just hates humanity. That's the thing that I've like, you know, I spent a lot of time in different places and it just feels like America has gotten to the point where it just hates humanity. Like we've created a society of just despising human beings. And it's off-putting now at this point. It's like getting to the point where it's like, Random, but I was reading about the New Deal and how they had a federal writers project to give jobs to unemployed writers. They wrote state brochures, government manuals, oral histories, and city guides. You know who some of the writers that came from this program are? John Steinbeck, Ralph Ellison, Zora Neale Hurston, Saul Bellow, and many more. Yeah, I know. I know you were randomly reading about that because I talked about it last week on stream. Wow, so nice of you to randomly look into the thing that I specifically spent stream time talking about. How about you say like, hey Mike, I started looking more into the artists that were funded by the New Deal, and did you know there was also a writers program? Thanks for sending me down that rabbit hole. I learned a lot. No, it's I randomly decided to start reading about writers and the New Deal. Bitch, I told you about that. What do you mean? Have you thought about saying thank you? Okay, let's keep going. The rise of end times fascism. Oh my God. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I did not read this article. We should read this together. This is the vibe I'm talking about. This is, oh my God, this is so pithy. This Naomi Klein, she seems like she might be able to write. This is exactly what I'm talking about, where it's like everything is so hostile to humanity. Like there's just a hatred of humanity. Did you guys see Kyrgyzstan put out a video on South Korea? Did you guys see this? I kind of want to watch it. We might watch it in a little bit. Because even though Kyrgyzstan is a disgusting liberal, he is right about this. South Korea is toast. Like South Korea as a society is fucked. Like South Korea is done. He is right about that. And without internal forms of solidarity and mutual trust, the market cannot completely fulfill its proper economic function, and today this trust has failed. The end of history was not such. The words of Pope Francis. And the dogmatic formulae of prevailing economic theory proved not to be infallible. The fragility of world systems in the face of the pandemic has demonstrated that not everything can be resolved by market freedom. It has also shown that in addition to recovering a sound political life that is not subject to the dictates of finance, you must put human dignity back at the center and on that pillar build the alternative social structures we need. Wait, 233. Building social friendship does not only call for rapprochement between groups who took different sides at some troubled period of history, but also for a renewed encounter of the most impoverished and vulnerable sectors of society. For peace is not merely absence of war, but a tireless commitment, especially on the part of those of us charged with greater responsibility. To recognize, protect, and concretely restore the dignity so often overlooked or ignored of our brothers and sisters, so that they can see themselves as the principal protagonists of the destiny of their nation. You can imagine why some people don't like Pope Francis. And by the way, chat, notice that, what are we watching here? We're watching the world's first live streaming president, Claudia Sheinbaum. She's just doing what I do. This is literally what I do. She has like this like she's doing it like on a stage, but she's basically just doing what I do. Like she has like a little monitor of like whatever thing she's looking at. Like look over here, like it's right here. She's standing over here. I'm right down here on the bottom left. Like the only thing that's different is I have the chat on the screen. Mike, am I still going to Japan? No. I decided that now is not really a good time for me to be crossing the border. So I've decided to stay away from crossing the border for the immediate short term, unless I'm leaving. Please move to Canada. No. You will be fine. It's not me I'm worried about, but I'm not going to get into it anymore. Did you see Chinese public elementary schools? The school I went to still doesn't have air conditioning.
Where's the dining room?
Mike, more reps are coming to El Salvador. Democratic reps Robert Garcia, Maxwell Frost, Yasmin Ansari, and Maxine Dexter have arrived at El Salvador to pressure the Trump administration to abide by a Supreme Court order to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This trip is not being financed by taxpayer dollars. Do they care about her? No, rotten. I mean, like, if somebody gets murdered and the murderer gets arrested and prosecuted, like, I'm not saying that's the end of the story, but like, what, you want me to wave a magic wand and go back in time and make it not happen? I mean, if the perpetrator is being prosecuted, like, that seems like the system is functioning as much as these people can make it function. But when somebody gets kidnapped and sent to a fucking concentration camp with no proof they did anything wrong, that seemed to be something you should intervene on, right? Like, what are you gonna do? Clap for the prosecutors and say good job for prosecuting the murderer? Like, yeah, okay. And what, does this even make sense? Like, this is so weird because conservatives are usually the first people to be like, people die, it's just the cost of freedom. When we're like, man, I can't believe 20,000 people get shot to death every year in this country. They're like, well, that's just the price of freedom. Gun control wouldn't stop all gun deaths, therefore it's not worth doing. All right, what else did I want to say? Okay, we're doing we got more Pope shit. What more Pope shit do we want? Do you guys want to look into the conclave at all, or do you not care and we should wait till it happens?
Only twice in the 21st century has there been a vacancy of the Holy See. Now again, this most solemn duty falls to the College of Cardinals, the most senior members of the clergy.
So basically, chat, a cardinal is an archbishop who has been given a ceremonial position of a church that exists in Rome. So there's a bunch of churches in Rome, and these like archbishops that are being promoted to the next level get like a symbolic parish that they're supposedly the head of, even though they don't live in Rome, right? So those are the cardinals, right? And then there is the conclave.
138 cardinals are under.
The Sri Lankan cardinal is one of the potential successors, is a fucking demon of the highest order. I think it's very unlikely he gets picked. You said Yasmin Ansari, like that's a familiar name. I went to high school with her. Crazy. Yeah, I'm just really good at pronunciation.
They're 80
As
and
my chat will tell
eligible
you.
to elect the next pope. But before the white smoke rises, the bells toll, and a new Holy Father emerges. There's much work to be done, including a carefully choreographed series of events steeped in centuries of tradition.
The first thing that happens is what they call the Camerlengo, or the Chamberlain of the Holy Roman Catholic Church. Traditionally,
They have to hit him in the head with a silver hammer.
this is a fascinating piece. Would take a silver hammer and tap the Pope's forehead 3 times, and then call out his baptismal name. And if there are no response on any of the 3 knockings or the name, would declare the Pope officially dead.
Nowadays, there are more modern methods of declaring the Pope deceased, but the sentiment remains. And once it does, the Camerlengo takes the papal signet ring, the ring of the fisherman, and destroys it, signaling the end of Pope Francis's reign. His papal apartment is sealed, the College of Cardinals are notified, and a 9-day mourning period begins.
Back in April of 24, Pope Francis established new rites for the burial of a pope. Now, could his successor change this? Of course. But for Pope Francis, he was very clear that he did not want a pope that was associated with a noble statesman or a world leader or global power. He wanted to be remembered as a simple shepherd, as a kind pastor. And so he wanted to be buried in that respect. What's quite striking, it's a very simplified funeral rite that he's left us with. Pope Francis will be in a coffin, much like we see any of our family members buried in a coffin in a funeral home. What's also going to be striking is that coffin is going to be closed.
The funeral will be unlike the others we've seen in modern times. Think disciple of Christ, not head of state. Pope Francis will be buried at Santa Maria Maggiore, not St. Peter's Basilica. And that process will happen between the 4th and 6th days after his death. Once the burial is done, the conclave begins, which is roughly 15 to 20 days after the Pope's death is announced.
That's a very serious gathering. It's very restricted. The cardinals themselves are in one place. They're not to leave during that time. They don't come and go. They're it's now where Pope Francis lives, in Santa Marta, and they stay there. They go over to the Sistine Chapel each day for their deliberations and their vote.
The cardinals vote in secrecy 4 times a day. When they vote, they're locked inside the Sistine Chapel. They're cut off from the outside world as a way to reconnect with the Holy Spirit. If a 2/3 majority is not reached, the smoke that emerges is black. Once a decision has been made, the smoke is white and the bells toll.
It's not an election as much as it's a discernment. And that goes back to the earliest days of the church, when the apostles had to choose a successor, not for Peter, but for Judas, to make the number whole again. That what they did is they gathered in prayer and they listened to one another to hear where the Holy Spirit was leading them. And that's why this is different. This isn't an election in the ways of this world. The selection of a pope is meant to come out of an experience of prayer and solidarity.
The longest conclave in history lasted 1,006 days. Theoretically, any baptized Roman Catholic man is eligible for the papacy. But for the last 700 years, the Pope has been chosen from the College of Cardinals. So who will it be?
What people should be cautious about is looking at the Vatican and looking at the global Catholic Church through the lens of American politics and American ideas of conservatism.
If it lasts for more than a few weeks, they'll just stop giving them food.
And liberalism. The church is, it operates on all continents of the world. There are 1.2 billion Catholics worldwide. Some might hew to what are considered traditional Catholic values and ideals and tradition and doctrine, and others don't. And this is sort of what makes predicting a new pope sort of.
Am I eligible for pope? Of
What
course.
matters most to the cardinals is the continuation of the church, and yet much of that depends on how the next pope addresses global social and economic issues, those that pull people in and turn people away. The bottom line is anything can happen, and the Holy Spirit works on a timetable and an agenda all its own. Teresa Priolo, Fox 5 News.
Everyone's got their Pope video. Holy shit, everybody had a Pope video to drop. They were working overtime. Like, look at these Pope videos.